James Carville knew how to win, and he blamed the Democratic losses this November 2nd on stupid wokeness, to which AOC fired back that wokeness is a term almost exclusively used by older people these days. So that should tell you all you need to know. What? This is a term folks like you brought out very recently and had been proudly displaying at every march since. Just last year, The Guardian declared woke the word of our era. I guess they didn't get the memo from the Mean Girls Club. We don't use that emoji anymore. Woke, please, we say fetch now.
Now, Bill Maher is calling out AOC for shrugging off the whole woke debate and pushing America in the wrong direction. You'd think after getting hit hard in the elections, the Democrats would slow down and move closer to the center, but that hasn't happened. Instead, some of their biggest names, especially AOC, look determined to keep chasing woke politics no matter the cost.
That said, I would love to have AOC on this show. There's so much to admire there. I was one of her first supporters for the Green New Deal idea. But that will probably never happen because Democrats don't go anywhere these days where they're not pre-adored. And that's my last bit of advice to them. Go where the amen corner isn't. Do Fox News. Be brave. Come here. Go everywhere. Winning is about expanding the electorate.
And Maher isn't holding back at all. Welcome to this video where he breaks down and goes after AOC's latest woke claims. Buckle up, because this one gets intense really fast.
What a great strategy, never missing an opportunity to remind voters how lame and clueless and hopelessly uncool they are, especially since those are the ones who actually vote. But okay, fine. What word would you like us to use for the plainly insane excesses of the left that are not liberalism, but something completely different? Because you can't have that word liberal from us and think it should cover things like canceling Lincoln and teaching third graders their oppressors. That's all your new thing.
Now, here's where it really gets interesting. AOC isn't actually afraid of being woke. She's afraid of being called woke. It's like saying, I love everything this stands for, but please don't embarrass me by using the label. Even while trying to downplay it, she somehow ends up looking perfectly woke. And that's exactly what Maher is calling out. He's not just picking at words, he's taking on her whole crew of self-proclaimed woke revolutionaries who claim they're just progressives, even though their policies have drifted far from traditional liberal values. Maher's point is crystal clear. Liberalism used to mean open debate, common sense, and actually listening to people. Now, thanks to AOC and her ideological circle, it's turning into a hyper-moral, ultra-sensitive crusade that barely looks like the liberalism it claims to be.
A more pertinent question to ask about the word woke might be, why in such a short time has it gone from a rallying cry to a pejorative? If the word only made you think of rational, deserved causes like teaching a less whitewashed version of American history, AOC would still want to own it. But it's a joke, because it makes you think of people who wake up offended and take orders from Twitter, and their oversensitivity has grown tiresome.
Exactly. Figures like AOC and Bernie Sanders don't really represent true liberal values, not the classic kind that protect free speech, promote open dialogue, and focus on practical solutions. Ironically, they've even twisted the original meaning of woke, which used to mean being aware of real, concrete social issues. Today, the term has been stretched to cover extreme ideas most everyday people just can't relate to. What started as a call for awareness has turned into a cultural performance, where the goal isn't justice, but keeping a tiny group who's offended by everything happy. Instead of making policies that actually help working-class Americans, the focus is on policing language, ideological battles, and purity tests no one asked for. Maher's point is clear. This modern woke agenda has drifted far from real liberalism and from the real concerns of ordinary people.
People ask me all the time, why haven't you ever had Hillary or Bill Clinton on? Why didn't you have Kamala on during the last campaign? You think we don't ask? We ask these people every week. They say no. It took 8 years and a petition to get Obama on. And these are people, all people I voted for. Think about that. They're afraid to come on the show of a guy who voted for them. The Republicans, they show up.
If you followed this channel, you know this isn't Maher's first time challenging Democrats to come on his show. He's practically rolled out the red carpet, sent personal invites, and even called them out publicly. Yet they still refuse to show up. And the reason is obvious. They know Maher won't just let them read talking points without pushback. Sure, he's a Democrat, but he's the kind who values tough questions, honest debate, and calling out nonsense when he sees it. That makes him almost untouchable to today's hypersensitive, ultra-curated political crowd. They know that sitting across from Maher means facing every inconsistency, having their contradictions exposed, and likely seeing their woke narratives shredded live on national TV. So what do? They dodge him, because facing Maher means facing reality.
Give the people all the goodies Joe Manchin will allow. And it doesn't seem to buy their love. Why? Why is the party that supports so many issues that benefit the middle class still considered out of touch by 62% of Americans? In plain English, nobody likes a snob. Hillary Clinton didn't have anyone on rural research or outreach when she ran in 2016 until the race tightened just before the election. Then they hired one. And where was his office? Brooklyn. True story. Politics is local, not locally sourced. It's not artisan. It's art and Stan.
These days, the DNC seems more focused on political theater than actually tackling the problems keeping everyday Americans up at night. Instead of listening to the average voter, they pander to the loudest far-left voices. Voices that don't represent most of their own supporters. Maher has been trying to drive home a simple truth. Politics isn't a stage, it's local. It's about showing up for the people who elected you, understanding their struggles, and solving the everyday issues that shape their lives. Yet somehow, that lesson keeps flying over the heads of leaders like AOC, who seem more focused on ideological battles than practical governance. Maher's point is clear. If Democrats want to regain trust, they need less performance and more real problem solving. Right now, they're missing the mark completely.
Your microaggression culture doesn't play in the Rust Belt. If a staffer hands you a speech that says menstruating people instead of women, don't say that. Say women. Don't put anyone fresh out of college in charge of the campaign. They've been given participation trophies their whole life. They don't know how to win.
Maher keeps breaking down, point by point, the woke missteps that helped sink the DNC in the elections. And he doesn't hold back. He highlights how they nearly erased the concept of womanhood, swapping a word that stood for thousands of years with clinical phrases like menstruating people or birthing people, expecting everyday Americans to accept it as normal. Then, there's the obsession with radicalized education culture. Instead of teaching resilience, standards, and real achievement, schools handed out participation trophies like candy, no effort required, no excellence rewarded. The message was simple: just show up and you're a winner. Maher says this mindset eventually spilled into politics, activism, and even the workplace. On that note, he points to another problem: hiring people not for skill, but for ticking the right demographic boxes. Voters noticed, and merit got sidelined. These aren't small mistakes, Maher argues. They're glaring examples of ideological overreach and exactly why the DNC lost touch with both reality and the people they're meant to serve.
To a lot of folks in America, you come across as the cares about everybody but me party. And it doesn't have to be that way. You can find ways to stand up for these folks without being David Duke. This month, when the Democrats finally passed their big trillion-dollar bill to rebuild our roads and bridges, 6 Democrats voted no because it didn't go far enough to address climate change, which I'm sure is true. What does? But this was free money from the federal government that would actually improve their constituents' lives. I can see a voter saying, you know, squad, I agree with you on climate change. But as long as it is happening, we also need money for getting the water pumped out of the subway.
Today, the Democrats seem more focused on people abroad than the citizens in their own neighborhoods. They'll rally passionately for Gaza, organize emotional events for teens in Guatemala, and write heartfelt petitions for communities in Afghanistan. But when it comes to decisions that directly affect American families, jobs, safety, housing, the cost of living, they stall, get lost in ideological debates, or do nothing at all. Maher points to one clear example: a huge funding package they rejected simply because it didn't include climate change provisions. Instead of using that money to fix urgent problems like failing infrastructure, overwhelmed cities, and struggling households, They threw it aside. It's like domestic suffering can wait, but global symbolism can't. Maher's point is sharp but fair. They could have accepted the funding, solved pressing issues first, and pushed for climate measures afterward. That's how practical politics works. But today's Democrats are so focused on ideological purity that they'd rather let Americans struggle than compromise even a little, and voters notice.
And then there's abortion, a difficult issue for the Democrats to lose on. But they're trying. For decades, liberals have said if only men could get pregnant, this wouldn't even be an issue. And abortion rights are women's rights. Well, that's wrong now. Or as the kids say, hold up. When the wokey end of the progressive spectrum talks about abortion now, they shy away from that word, women, and prefer terms like birthing people or people who menstruate, because somewhere there's a trans man who's pregnant, and I say good for him, and I'll be looking for his story somewhere in a future issue of Ripley's Believe It or Not.
The woke ideological wave hit its peak when the far left boldly claimed that men could get pregnant. A statement so far from biology that most people didn't know whether to laugh or panic. To push this new idea, they even released a pregnant man emoji, as if a tiny digital icon could undo thousands of years of science. It was pure ideological theater. Unsurprisingly, the public reacted with confusion, disbelief, and plenty of raised eyebrows. Reasonable questions and critiques came up, showing just how far the debate had drifted from reality. But instead of responding, the far left lashed out. Anyone who questioned the claim, even politely, was labeled intolerant, bigoted, or hateful. Discussion wasn't welcome. Compliance was expected. Dissent became risky. Accept the narrative without question, or be branded an enemy of progress. That's when it became clear this wasn't about inclusion or justice anymore. It had turned into ideological enforcement, and ordinary people simply couldn't keep up with the constantly changing rules of woke correctness.
Last week, an 85% Latino congressional district on the border with Mexico, which had always voted heavily Democratic, flipped to the red team. And the campaign manager for the losing Democrat said, "We gave up a reliably Democratic congressional seat for no reason at all. We deserve to know why." Well, aside from your terrible attitude, I'm going to tell you why. Because these voters stopped seeing your candidate as their lawyer. That's why. Their message to you was, I'm an American now. I'm here. Be my lawyer, not the lawyer for the migrants showing up in my backyard.
At the end of the day, Maher's critique isn't just about AOC, woke language, or ideological theatrics. It's about a Democratic Party so caught up in performance politics that it's forgotten the people it's supposed to serve. From redefining basic biology to handing out participation trophies. From putting global symbolism above local struggles to rejecting crucial funding because it didn't perfectly match climate ideology. The far left has shaped a political scene that feels completely out of touch with everyday Americans. Maher's point is clear. When a party cares more about pleasing fringe activists than solving real problems, voters will walk away. And they did. The DNC didn't lose because Americans became heartless or uninformed. They lost because the party ignored reality, shut down debate, and treated common sense like a threat. If Democrats want to earn back trust, they need to stop policing language, stop coddling extreme ideologies, and start tackling the real issues that affect ordinary people. Until then, voices like Maher's will keep calling them out, and voters will keep sending the same message at the ballot box. That wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this.